Hi, I'm Josh Simons, a psychic medium based out of Littleton, New Hampshire. I'd like to take this opportunity today to share with you my story and what to expect should you sign up for a session with me. I found this path back in 2016 when my husband, Isaac, bought me a DNA test for Christmas. Prior to that DNA test, I was not a spiritual person whatsoever, and when I met my husband in 2008, he was very much a spiritual person. Our childhoods were very different. My mom was a waitress and my dad was a construction worker, and they both came from farming families. I had not attended church or any sort of spiritual anything growing up. My husband Isaac was very much a spiritual person. He was into stuff like Reiki and shamanism, herbalism, tarot cards, all sorts of things. And I didn't particularly understand it at that time. And I just wanted him to interact with that stuff in a healthy way, making sure that he wasn't hurting himself or other people. And I even asked him at that time to make sure he wasn't really talking about spirits in front of people, because I was afraid people were going to think he was crazy. In 2016, Isaac bought me a DNA test. At that point in time, I was the owner of a marketing company with about 70 to 80 local clients in a 25-mile radius around where we lived. That DNA test, when I took it, fascinated me incredibly. Growing up, I had one grandparent, my mom's mom, my Grandma Edith, and she had family from Canada. She affectionately referred to herself as a stinking Frenchman, and I thought, well, we're so close to Canada, we're probably French too, right? Well, the results of that DNA test showed I had very little French, and it was mostly Germanic, British, Scottish, Irish, Scandinavian, very, very much Northern European. I stand at 6'7", so I kind of come from the land of the Vikings. That DNA test, as I said, fascinated me so much that I decided to sign up for Ancestry.com, and I started to build family trees. I started to find out who my grandparents were, who my great-grandparents were, where they came from, what their stories were. And it really fascinated me. And I do warn you, if you get into that, if you've never researched your genealogy or ancestry, it is very, very addictive. So, fair warning for you. As I was digging into those stories and those family trees, that's when this stuff started to happen to me. My psychic and mediumship happened to me as soon as I started to connect with my ancestors and my family trees. I'm not one of those people that will claim to have spoken to spirits as a child. That wasn't my story, and that's not what happened. As a wee fella, as a little boy, I was just very much into scary stuff. Vampires and werewolves, ghosts and zombies. I think I was like 8 or 9 reading Stephen King, and my parents didn't care because I wasn't causing problems. I wasn't fighting with my sister, and they were busy working 2 or 3 jobs. So, when this stuff started to happen to me, I will rightly say, and I'm not ashamed to say this at all, that it freaked me out. I had no idea what it was. I had no basis for it. I had no context for it. Meanwhile, my husband had a pretty good idea what it was, and I had other people around me that had a pretty good idea what it was. And yet it freaked me out. It wasn't anything that I had ever asked for. It wasn't anything that I had ever wanted. And it scared me. So, what I did is I did what people do when they get scared of things. I walked away from it. I pulled back from it. I damped it down. I didn't want to use it. I didn't want to engage with it. But what I did is I kept building my family trees. I kept discovering these stories. And I'll tell you, our ancestors, every single one of our ancestors struggled and suffered to make sure that we could see this day. That really dawned on me. Not only the stories of my noble ancestors, the ones that went to war, but their wives who stayed and ran farms and took care of their children. Those stories really, really impacted me. And it made me realize that everything that I have, all of my gifts and attributes come from those people who suffered greatly. And it made me realize, probably with the help of those ancestors, that if I didn't lean into those gifts and those attributes that they fought to make sure that I had here today, if I didn't lean into those in the best interest of myself, my family, my community, the world at large, I was dishonoring their path and their struggles, and I didn't want to do that. So I decided to do what my ancestors did, and instead of running away from this scary thing, I decided to run toward it. So I decided to use it and try to figure out what it was and not take what other people were saying what it was. Halloween of 2017, I set up a science experiment. Science and the DNA is what got me into this, and science was going to help me figure it out. I set up a science experiment. I had a hypothesis, I had a suspicion about some stuff about what I had, and I decided to experiment with it. I set up a night on Halloween of readings with people that I had no idea who they were or what they were about, and I found out that running that experiment that I did have something. Stretching those muscles and figuring it out helped me realize why I had those things. Everything that I do as a psychic and medium, everyone that comes through me, everything that happens comes through and happens from a place of love and compassion. The reason that I have this stuff is to bring people clarity, connection, and direction. Clarity and direction in their life and connection to their spirits that carry on. And what I've found is our spirits are very much with us all the time. Our ancestors, our beloved dead. I like to refer to them as umbrellas in the way that they hover over us and they're very near us. If you believe in an afterlife, if you believe in a heaven and that sort of thing, we kind of get this idea along the way that it's a far off, distant place. No, our ancestors and our beloved dead are very much with us. And they're umbrellas over us individually, they're umbrellas over us collectively, over their tribe of folks that they would have loved while they were here. I have also found that our ancestors and our spirits are pretty much our intuition in the way that they're moving through us and sending messages about that situation or that person is good news or bad news, and move closer to it or move away from it. Our spirits are always with us. And I like to keep it simple in how our world and their world interacts. This world of spirit is very much behind what we would think of as like a one-way mirror that we would see in a cop show, a police drama. We, as humans, as living entities on Earth, sit on the side of the suspects, pretty oblivious to what's going on the other side. Our spirits sit on the side where they can feel us, they can know us. And they're very much cheering for us. So when folks sit with me for a session, I will hear things, I will feel things, I will know things, I will taste things about who they are, where they were from, what was going on in their lives, and what was going on in the lives of their loved ones that I'm sitting with. When you sit with me, you'll find that I also borrow some of my grandmother's French. So, if you have any bullshit in your heart, or bullshit in your life, your spirits will see it as an opportunity to use me as a phone line to help you cut through the bullshit and walk to a place of peace and balance. That's it. We will talk about things that you struggle with internally, things that you struggle with externally, and everything comes through from a place of love and compassion. When you sign up for a session with me, we're going to have a blast. We're going to have fun. Things may get very serious. Things will definitely come through from a place of love and compassion. That's the point of it all. I'm also very much a believer in self-sovereignty and personal freedom. So, when you sit with me, you'll hear insight and information from your spirits. The example that I like to use with folks is that if your grandmother comes through during a session with me and she says, hey, listen, cut it out with the donuts. The donuts are too much. This is your life, your body. As long as you're not hurting other people, as long as you're not compromising their dignity or well-being, do with your life and your body as you'd like to. It's yours, personal freedom. And I don't want you to take any of the information that I pass you during a session as gospel, as a prescription or a conscription from God or divinity or goddess or universe or anything like that. Your spirits are very much with you all the time, and they want to provide you with feedback. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to reach out to me. You can also sign up for a session with me right on my website at joshsimons.com. When you get there, you'll see all sorts of information about what I do and how I do it, and you'll see a book session button. Walk through that process, you'll find yourself scheduled, and I am most likely the only psychic medium that will give you a 4-leaf clover charm. Out of all the weird things that I have in my life, I have this really weird thing with 4-leaf clovers. I find them all the time. So I make charms out of them. You'll see this right here as the one I carry for me. This is my 4-leaf clover charm that I carry, and when you sign up for a session with me, you'll receive one. If you're long distance in the United States, you'll receive one by mail. If you're up in-person session, you'll come in and you'll have one waiting for you that you can hold on to during our session. When you sign up for me, I record the session for you, and after a couple of days, when I get around to it, I will send you the link to the recording. That's yours to keep forever and ever, and you can listen to it as often as you like to. So thank you for hearing my story. I hope it'll lend some clarity to what I do and how I do it and why I do it. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Again, find out all about me on my website at joshsimons.com.